Jesus' kingdom came to change the nature of man's relationship with God. You see, those 6 stone water pots represented for the Jews their ceremonial washing. Jesus turns the ordinary into something extraordinary. In other words, what he's about to do for humankind is the only thing that cleanses humankind from all guilt and shame. You don't have to go through religious tradition. You don't have to go through all the other things that you sometimes feel like you need to do. Because I watch it today. People do that when they have a misunderstanding about God. They messed up. They show back up at church. They're like, Pastor, what can I do? Because they feel so guilty. And I want you to know that you don't need to walk around with guilt or shame. If you've been snoozing, if you've been shopping on eBay, I need your undivided attention right now. Because you're like, man, this is all boring. Let me speak to you directly. Because Jesus is the revelation of God. That ceremony ran out of wine, did it not? Whose responsibility was that? Wouldn't that have been the groom? You see, you sometimes think that God doesn't care about the little things in your life. Sometimes you think that God is a fault finder. Here, Jesus covers this groom's shame. He keeps his reputation intact. Because what? Love covers a multitude of sin. You see, God is for you. God cares about the things of your life. You think that somehow, some way, God in heaven, he's got the whole world to oversee. What are the things that are going on in my life? Why would he care? But I want you to know this story speaks to you to realize that everything going on in your life, God cares about. God will help you with. God is not distant. He knows exactly the things you struggle with, and he comes to help you. But how does he help you? See, John said he wrote this so that we would believe. Why? But because by believing, we might have life. Listen, I need your undivided attention. How did this miracle occur? Remember I said Mary's a key to this. What'd she say to the servants? Do whatever he says. See, if you're a follower of Jesus, believing means that you come to the place in life that you do what he says. But do you know why many of you haven't really received from God the way you want to receive from God? You haven't experienced the life that God's designed. Because what did Jesus tell the servants to do first? Fill the water pots full, right? Now, that's a lot of water to carry, isn't it? Now, did they know what he was going to do? No, nobody knew what we read it, we have hindsight, okay, which is 2020. No, they didn't know what he was going to do, right? Carrying the water there wasn't easy. Notice, most of the time, God tells us to do something. We might start out doing it, but then we complain. This is tougher than I thought. And you don't actually fulfill what he told you to do the first time, because the second command didn't come till the first one was complete. Here's a word for some of you in this building today. The reason why God hasn't been able to do more in your life is because the first thing he told you to do, you haven't completed. You haven't fulfilled it. You're wanting God to do something new. Go back and fulfill what he told you to do the first time. Because if Jesus is God in a bod, then what he says has the ability to change everything. What did Jesus do? He turned the ordinary into extraordinary. And you see, if you're a true follower of Jesus, if you're a disciple, here's what you need to understand. He wants you to live a life that's not normal. He wants you to live a life that's extraordinary. In other words, if you're married, he doesn't want your marriage to just get dull and boring. He wants you to stay intoxicating. But how? How does that happen? If you're in a career, Jesus wants you to be fruitful. He wants you to be prosperous. He wants you to be absolutely a leader in your marketplace. But how? You see, whatever the issue, your finances, your health, whatever the key is what Mary said. Whatever he says, do it. You got to do the first one. They didn't just fill it halfway. Partial obedience isn't obedience at all. And that's the problem is some of you got tired, you got halfway full, and you're like, isn't that good enough? And no, who is speaking? See, you have to ask the question, who is Jesus? Because when he's God, then what he says is 100% something you need to follow, because guess what? Did they know what doing it would accomplish? Nor do you know why, what he asked you to do, what will it accomplish. But you see, you want to know. Be honest. I mean, come on, we're in church. You can confess. Be honest. Most of us, we want to know, well, what do you do? If I do this, what will you do? And it's like this bargaining thing. Well, the question is, who is Jesus? Because if he's God, then we do what he says because he knows more than I know. Who's in charge?